Hello, hi Darragh.
Hello, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Yeah, very good. Very excited to be here.
So we are at the No-Code Week in a small room outside of the event, to be a little more quiet, a little more cool because it's getting quite warm outside here in Frankfurt, and we're very happy that Noloco is one of the partners of the event.
We're delighted to be here. No, it's been a great couple of days.
Super nice, and I'm very happy that we have a chance to talk because Noloco has been a tool in the no-code space for quite some times. We never had a chance to meet before. Have you ever been to events like No-Code Summit? I think you were a partner now in Paris.
We've been to No-Code Summit twice. I think was it not the year just gone, but maybe the previous 2 years was 2023, 2024 maybe.
I remember seeing you, but we never had a chance to meet, so I'm glad at least.
Yeah.
Just right before you leave, we have a little bit of time just to have a little chat. Can you introduce yourself? And then we'll talk about the tool, but I think it's always interesting also to know a bit more about the person and your background.
Absolutely. So, my name is Darragh. I'm the CEO and founder of Noloco. I'm from Ireland, just outside of Dublin, but I've been living in Barcelona for the last 2 years or so. I founded Noloco in 2021, give or take. So we just passed our 5th birthday actually in May, which was very, very exciting. We are a no-code tool to help teams, typically small, medium-sized businesses, build better software around their data. Better software for their team, their clients, their vendors, whatever it is. Typically, they build things like CRMs, project management systems, client portals. And we've been doing this, like I said, for a couple of number of years. A lot's changed. The product itself has evolved. The landscape itself has evolved. But our core thesis has always been to help people build better systems, no matter where their data is. So whether it's, CSVs and Excel spreadsheets that they're trying to migrate away from, or whether it's, Airtable bases or Postgres databases or MySQL databases, we help them just put a better system, or what we call an operating system, on top of that data.
All right. We'll come back to the tool. Are you a developer yourself, or you're...
Sorry, that's a great question. Yeah, no, before all this, in a very previous life, I was a software engineer, working at big companies like HubSpot, and then a smaller startup out of Dublin as well.
Okay. And how did you decide to go on this thesis that you were mentioning? Why did you decide to tackle this problem?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was, I'd come from HubSpot, where I had worked really closely with small, medium-sized businesses, and I'd seen the kind of problems that they face day in, day out. And then I moved to a startup, and a lot of the tools that I had at my disposal at HubSpot disappeared. We were a small team. We didn't have anything like that, and we weren't exactly an SMB. We were a startup that was growing, but all the same, we had to build all of our tools ourselves. Better ways to manage clients, better ways to kind of manage customer data. And we were using low-code tools at the time, popular ones like Retool, that sort of thing. And that was available to me because I was a software engineer. I knew how to write JavaScript. I knew how to write SQL. And if we can remember this, AI wasn't really a thing back then. So you had to write your own, right?
Definitely.
And I kind of started to think, like, what if, you could put constraints around certain applications, where it has a deep knowledge of the data, and you could probably pretty confidently build something that would non-technical users could leverage to build better tools for their teams. Because if you know that a project table has project name and a project status and a project due date, you can design what that form looks like. You can design what that table would look like, or at least refine the type of options you would give them in an application. That was the kind of core thesis.
Okay.
And then through user feedback, we evolved massively over the last 5 years.
Okay. Yeah, that's going to be interesting because I would say some of your competitors have also evolved, changed completely. Some have disappeared.
Absolutely.
I mean, the no-code space has changed so much. The word no-code itself. In 2021, were you already using the word no code? What was your relation to that? I feel like I remember Noloco straight away being attached to this, but for you as a founder, was it something you had in mind, or?
Yeah, in 2021, it was right off the back of COVID. I think no code was kind of popping.
Yeah.
Even the name Noloco is a combination of no code and low code.
Right.
So we definitely leaned into it. It was, Zapier was king. Airtable was what everyone was building systems out of, and we identified a kind of gap there for people that needed better systems. Exactly. The interface layer.
Every system has a database, some logic, and some interface. Precisely. And at first you were like really going into that interface subject.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Can you explain just a little bit how it works? Like what's the kind of paradigm, I would say, like the visual programming that's happening in Noloco?
Yeah. So
especially at that time, maybe because I'm sure it has evolved, but just so people can also relate.
Absolutely.
It's interesting.
Yeah. The easiest way I like to describe Noloco is if you're familiar with Wix or Squarespace or Webflow. They're great for building websites, which are, static pages, whether it's text and designs. But then Noloco takes it a step further and connects to some sort of database, so that instead of a single web page, you've got a kind of templatized app where it connects to your database or your spreadsheet more aptly, and you can just customize those options. So you can build a list of your projects, your tasks, or whatever it is, your data you've got. And you can then, once you open up a certain project, you can customize how that project template kind of looks. The same with the form. So you point and click and you change the options in the right sidebar. It's a kind of paradigm that most people have become very familiar with. And then, as you kind of mentioned, in the early days, we leaned into people building on top of Airtable and Google Sheets to
was
unlock
it more one of the other? Because for me, of course, it was Airtable, but I know that actually many of the tools that were allowing to build interface they had much more user on Google Sheets because it's much more predominant. But was it the case also for you, or people were coming more with Airtable as a...
For us, it's always been Airtable as the kind of predominant data source. Now, I will say we're kind of unique in that we started with Noloco tables, which is what we call our table product. We started with those before we even had an Airtable integration. It wasn't as mature as maybe Airtable. So we definitely got some kind of tailwinds by leveraging that Airtable sync. But Google Sheets, I mean, it's great in practice, but I've found that the people who are kind of building on top of Google Sheets, or perhaps using Google Sheets in a day-to-day, they're not using it like a database. So it gets very difficult to build on top of. And then even then, after a couple hundred rows, it starts becoming slow and it becomes the bottleneck. So, any serious user, we would always recommend them switching over to our own tables or even Airtable.
Of course.
Right.
Yeah, because even Airtable, I guess you were also facing the same problem of the API limits, the rate limiting and all this.
Exactly. Yeah, we've crafted something special, I guess, to become very intimately familiar with their Airtable rate limits. But I think anybody building on top of Airtable likely has, whether you're building a platform like our own or just using it across hundreds of automations or whatever. But to be fair, I understand where they come from and why they need to be there. And we kind of do our best to respect them as well.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And so the target, I would say, what you were expecting people to build on top of Noloco, or with Noloco, was always like more like internal tooling, right?
Always, yes, yeah. Like there's already so many things for building websites and building landing pages. We didn't see that as our speciality because when you focus in on building internal tools, it's not that the design doesn't need to be good, but the design is not what's important, right? Like we will design the application, the blocks of the application. They'll look great. We'll be able to handle how they look on mobile, how they look in dark mode, how they look on big screens, how they look when they're stacked together. The average user, we found, really doesn't care how round the corners are or how deep the shadow is, Of course, we let you theme the app, different colors, over time we've added more options, but the core thesis is we look after how it looks and feels, you focus on what it does.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I know it's it's an issue that software is facing a lot, is that because they also have a lot of people who are building more, not internal tools, but more like client facing. And so they have a lot of customers who want to customize everything,
Absolutely.
which is impossible. Like we had a talk like a couple of years ago at the No Code Week with one of the designers from software, and he was saying like, you can't have both like easy to use and good looking and let people do whatever they want, because most people, they will make something ugly. And
Absolutely.
it's sort of,
yeah. And it's not even just that. Like, we found the more options we introduce into Noloco, the more difficult it is to use.
Yeah,
so
of course.
we think very carefully before we give users a new configuration option, because it's just one more place where they'll trip up and go, actually, that I didn't know how to use it. And then, if you're focusing on people building public apps that are more like a business instead of a business tool, someone building a product, the requirements they have, both in terms of scale, in terms of functionality, in terms of customization, are just completely distinct from those that a business team needs,
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think it's important to have that in mind, and that tools have a clear goal of what's being built. Do you have some examples of things that were built with Noloco that you liked, and maybe some things that surprised you as well?
Yeah, I mean, this is the unfortunate kind of problem that we face when I want to share great examples of Noloco solutions, is that they are ultimately all internal facing, locked behind an auth page systems. But we have customers that have overcome some of the challenges they faced on Airtable, for example, where they have maybe 20 bases, each with a couple 100,000 records, that in Airtable would have had to be maybe 50 distinct interfaces, because you can't have different roles. You can't have different permissions per in an interface. So you have to create multiple interfaces. An interface can only be linked to one base. So if your data spans multiple bases, you need to link them out to a separate interface. So there's just a lack of cohesion between them all. So one of our favorite customers is a construction firm based out of the US. Several hundred employees use their app daily, and it is everything. It is their CRM, it is their ERP, it is their construction company. So they do pre-qualification for the subcontractors that work for them. They do all of their bidding, where they kind of bid on upcoming projects. They do the decision making for upcoming projects. They do the project management side of it. And they split this app into what we call spaces, which kind of just logically group all of these different functions. And they sync maybe over 1 million Airtable records go into this app daily, and keeps everything on the kind of one page. And it's become, like I said from the beginning, their operating system. And that's just something that wouldn't have been capable or wouldn't have been possible a couple of years ago. And it's all managed by the IT director and a kind of a probably poorly named role. I think that she's a database administrator, but she mostly works in Noloco and Airtable.
Do you know, just out of curiosity, how much they save? Because I can imagine that if they were paying for a CRM, if they were paying for all those tools that they are doing in Noloco, do you have a rough idea? Or
I don't. One of the ways they save is by eliminating some save on Airtable seats. It's not something we generally encourage. It's just sometimes a byproduct. But you're right. If they wanted to use HubSpot, if they wanted to use or Salesforce, and then as well as some core kind of construction management systems, and maybe something like Jira for project management, all of those would require hundreds of seats, which start at least $10 to $50 a seat. So it's hundreds of thousands per year saved.
Yeah, I feel especially I see in France, tools that are a bit specialized. I don't know, I remember I worked for a company, and they had to deploy a tool that was just doing management for cleaning rooms in hospitals. So it's super specific. It was very simple, it could be an exercise for a no-code builder,
Yeah.
and they were paying, I don't know, it was because it was, such a specialized, and you had salespeople who were selling this to those contractors to the hospital. So, I mean, it was insane, and
and that's the problem as well. Like a lot of the time, these contracts are sold to the people not actually using it. So, someone managed to convince a director somewhere that you'll need 500 seats of this. It only solves 60% of the problem, and then there's another 60% that nobody actually needs.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
There's hundreds of seats wasted each month, and it costs hundreds of thousands each year. And that's what we've learned over the last couple of years is our best cohort is the kind of underserved, the company that is maybe too small for the massive enterprise software, but too niche for there to be any major supplier out there doing exactly what they need to do. And it's not even like real niches. It's like just construction companies that do two types of construction where most software focuses on just one. Like a simple enough example was I spoke to a small team in the US who they fitted kitchens. They installed kitchens for clients, and they had a CRM, and they had all their materials in there. And he said, I have a piece of software and it's absolutely perfect, but we also do decking. We install decking, and the software just can't do it. So he was rolling his own. He was building something in Noloco to combat that friction of trying to. He had two choices. Either accept that there was nothing out there, or kind of shoehorn his business into this off-the-shelf software. So that's the problem where I think we've been kind of solving, and that's what people have been plagued by for the last couple of years. And I think overall, Noloco and a bunch of other no-code software has been solving that problem, which is, it's really empowering, genuinely. I love hearing what people have been doing. And you asked me, is there something that surprised me? Like every day, because at the end of the day, every day I'm surprised by something someone has done on Noloco or in combination with Noloco, particularly these days where people are, tying in custom automations that produce code that end up dropping in dynamic pages, or they've combined some of our different functions to create something I would never have thought of, building kind of. One example was building a kind of quick links page, which made sense, but each page instead was like searchable. So they had a quick directory of all the software that the company used, so people could search, and they had rules and filters based on the type of organization you had. And it sounds trivial, but I never thought of it. I never would have thought of that. But it makes sense when you've 500 employees and probably 200 software subscriptions. People want to be able to find the tools.
Yeah. No, but I think, it's amazing. Like when you're building a tool that allows people to do anything, then, I think it's interesting to see what you didn't thought of.
Exactly.
Of course, you have your use case that you're thinking, and then you can be surprised by how people use your tool. Can you tell us a bit about how Noloco has evolved in those 5 years?
Absolutely, yeah. So like I said, the very first, so I'll go back to the very beginning, to be honest. So I did say that we started out trying to help people build better tools, but even before that, we actually tried to we started as like a web app builder. Think Bubble or WeWeb, like very customized, right?
Okay.
But this is what makes me so confident on the core thesis I mentioned earlier of, focusing on internal tools means you could take away control to give people more options. So we had something incredibly powerful. Now, if I'd kept going with that, maybe we would have been the next Lovable. That might have been nice, but we're not. We changed direction pretty quickly because I realized that I'd built something incredible that only I could use, right? Only I knew how to press all the buttons in the right order, which was no better than learning how to write code. So we took away most of the functionality, most of the customization to go, okay, how can people build tables and Kanban boards and, lists much more quickly? How can they build forms, in seconds? And making sure that we understand the tables so that we can give them better controls over those fields and getting the data into forms and so on. So that's what we kind of, the original biggest shift. And then we quickly realized people really don't understand how to build out tables. And we at Noloco, we've always said it starts with the data. So that's when we said, okay, well, why don't we let people bring their data from wherever it already lives? So that's when we added in the data source integrations like Airtable and Google Sheets. And we started with those for maybe the best part of 6 to 12 months. And then we started getting more and more requests for people that had their data in other places. So we added in Postgres, MySQL, which were very interesting because not very no code, but you'd be surprised how many teams have an IT director or an IT manager who isn't technical in the sense of being able to software engineer, but they have provisioned a kind of old CRM system or ERP that has a MySQL database sitting on a server somewhere. And they want something better on top of that. And again, they can migrate to some SaaS solution, or they can put a better app on top of their data. So we had a bunch of those. And then we started adding other integrations, but we quickly realized that actually the kind of 6 or 7 that we tackled are the ones that most people within our ideal customer profile group need. So we focused then more on, okay, letting people do more with Noloco. And like I said, improving how they integrate with Noloco. So we added Make and Zapier integrations, and only this December did we add an N8N integration, in fact. But then on the other side, maybe 2022, 2023, AI exploded onto the scenes, I suppose. And then we started realizing that, AI will actually make it easier. It's ultimately solving this for the same thing that we are, which is, giving people tools that they previously didn't have access to. So we were very quick to let you type in what you want, and we would have AI actually build the tables for you, which was the problem I described a couple of minutes ago. So that led to a lot more adoption of our Noloco tables product, which was great.
Lowers the barrier of users.
People know they want an application that does XYZ. They don't know that they actually need tables that power
the
XYZ.
Data structure, the data model is very hard for people to...
It's very hard for people, particularly if they think like spreadsheets, which, X lookups and V lookups and stuff. If they're lucky, more often than not, it's just a mess or one huge table. So that was fantastic. And we basically started leaning into more stuff like that. But I think there was a lot of hype in the very early months of AI. And of course, the disciplines like software engineering, it made a massive impact too. But I think legitimately there was like 12 months where not a huge amount changed in the outside world. And then of course, maybe the last 18 months from like 2025 to today, a lot has changed. So we added in AI into our tables product. So now you can use, I think other tools called these kind of field agents, which is basically, you have effectively what I describe as an AI formula. So it can look at other fields in your tables, and it can derive a result. It might categorize, it might summarize. Maybe you want to categorize tickets into high priority, low priority, or bugs or feature suggestions, and that can all happen now in your table. So any change to those rows just happen live. And of course, our customers are completely non-technical. So whilst Twitter and LinkedIn is full of people talking about agents and AI, the vast majority of our customers haven't tried anything. So
it's true.
This is the platform they could dip their toes into AI with. That's what we found. And then the biggest shift, I guess, was in October when we introduced NOLA. That's what we call her, our AI agent. And NOLA lives in your app in the left sidebar, which is again a pattern a lot of people have come to.
When you say in your app, in the app that is being built.
That's a great question. Yeah. So as a builder, we had two options. We could build a chat AI that you could add to your app and maybe let you chat with your data and so on. And we decided that wasn't as important because
I agree.
There's a lot of people doing that already. And one of the core things we focus on at Noloco is permissions and security. And it just wasn't a solved problem.
You didn't mention it, but I think that was one of the early, very important use case.
Absolutely.
Is being able to add that layer of permissions on top of Airtable.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, sorry. That's so true. Yeah. That's the permissioned version of of your data is kind of key to what we do when you're building client portals or project management systems with different levels of hierarchy. And that's why we shied away from building a chat AI for the end user, because the last thing you'd want is to give a chat to your clients and let them be able to analyze projects of their competitors, maybe, right, or your other clients.
And the truth is, I think people, those end users, they wouldn't know what to ask.
They would not.
People want, there's been a lot of talk about all this. I don't think interfaces are going to disappear.
No.
Not everything is going to happen in a chat, because people want to have charts, they want to be guided, they want to have a button to press.
They do. Yeah.
So
I think some dashboards will disappear. But anything that's a recurring workflow, which is maybe like 80% of work. I think what's very interesting, and this is kind of an aside, very interesting about AI is that it can now access all your data and answer questions that previously would have taken days to build dashboards around to get those same answers. But so often you only need that dashboard for one answer. So that's where it's fantastic.
Yeah.
But
of course,
like in your company operating system where the people do their work, people do the recurring workflows, AI is not replacing that. So we chose to build NOLA that would focus on helping you build, right? Again, just making it easier, lowering that barrier to entry for people, building out the interfaces, building out their data tables, building out workflows, and that's what we did. So whether you have any data source connected like Airtable or Google Sheets, or whether you're building out on Noloco tables, NOLA can help you understand that data like never before, and then also build and recommend interfaces. So she's a co-pilot. We like to kind of say she is the expert that you haven't yet hired, the one just knows more about the platform than you. And the truth is, it was difficult to build, really difficult.
That was gonna be my next question.
Yeah. Like, great at some things, very good at building out the data stuff, tables, fields, how they work together. It's not that shocking because we haven't reinvented anything there. NOLA creates relational databases under the hood, which just means tables like tasks linked to projects and projects linked to clients, right? So that was kind of very second nature, I guess, to the AI agent. But then our interfaces, well, that's custom to us. Like, the AI has not been trained on those things before, and giving it the right tools was a challenge. And look, we haven't fully cracked it, I'll be very honest. But what we have seen is it's given people just more confidence in what they can build in Noloco, because of course, instead of maybe getting stuck and having to reach out to our support team, which I think people still hugely value, even in the world of AI, they could ask NOLA instead and get a pretty comprehensive answer about how to proceed, even walking them through stepping through what buttons to press, what options they need to configure. But I think we'll see a lot more change in the coming months, where as these models get more capable, if we ever get Fable back, who knows? I mean, we can push the boundaries of what these AI agents can do. And for us, the core thesis, like I've said, is just building better tools for your team. And I think we're in an interesting position to maybe combine some of the new AI code solutions and combine that with what we've got with no code, right? Like, because I think it's really silly to build a project management tool from scratch in code. We've got the building blocks already. We've got exceptionally designed Kanban boards. We've got exceptionally designed Gantt charts. Those things are pretty difficult to build from scratch, right?
To build and to run and to host and to maintain.
Exactly.
That's what people don't talk about on LinkedIn.
People don't talk about it.
Maybe people like, okay, maybe you can prompt a prompt in Lovable and get this.
Yes.
But then the rest of the problem is coming after. It's like securing all this, hosting it, making it available, which is all what the no-code platforms.
Absolutely. Like, in the last couple of months, I've had quite a few demos or sales calls or support calls where the person on the other end of the line has pulled up a local host file and they've said, okay, but I built this in Lovable, so how do I get this? Or no, sorry, not built in Lovable. They built this in Claude, and it's a HTML file or a local host server, and they have no idea how to get it into production. And of course, they could ask the agent, and it would step them through it. But the reality is that they don't want to host it. They don't want to be a software engineer and a DevOps engineer and a database engineer. They were just looking for a better way to organize their tasks, right? So sure, like us no-code platforms will have to adopt, but the problem we were solving for, which is making people, giving people access to better tools, absolutely remains as prominent as ever, I think.
I have two last questions because I don't want to keep you too late. Is your team, do you still do development on the platform?
More than ever actually now with AI. But,
do you use AI to?
Yes, we have to. No, we have to. But I mean, for me, I was the CTO, and in the last couple of years I've been in the CEO role, which, I have other responsibilities, but I love problem solving. I love software engineering. Anyone that knows me knows that my favorite place is sitting on a plane with no internet and locking in and writing some code for 2 hours, right? But of course I have other responsibilities. So I didn't do that very much. But now that I have, Claude or whatever, I can make small adjustments that I would like to see in the product between meetings, or, at the start of the day, and I can check in on it as we go. I don't need to do like 5-hour sessions where I don't talk to anybody anymore, which is a really interesting enablement for me. It also means I don't get anywhere near session limits or anything, because I'm not coding for 8 hours a day. So I can just use, the highest model at the highest thinking level. And burn through those.
It's interesting because apparently there's this whole trend of CEOs like pushing PRs.
Yeah.
But you are actually a software engineer in the first place. So this, for once, I think this works,
Yeah, I think it should, But it's true, there's a lot more of that. And we've dabbled a little bit with our non-technical teams, particularly for updating things like guides. So our guides are written in Markdown for a tool called GitLab. No, not GitLab. Gitbook, exactly. It's been incredible because we recently realized that our project manager, or our designer rather, was writing meticulous specs on how these products worked, and then obviously months later, when these products or the features were shipped, we were writing these guides, and then we just said, well, like, why not give the AI the context of the meticulous specs? It has screenshots, it has Loom videos, it has really detailed, like, when this happens. So it can now allow our support teams to write better guides, and then of course when we get it, when a customer struggles with something, where they can go, oh, we just update the guides. They could previously update the guides, but they can be much more comprehensive now. That's safe because it's not shipping code, of course, right? And we have other members of the team then with a small bit of access, but we're still figuring that out. I don't think we should be letting, right now, at least where we are, we don't have any need for non-technical team members to be pushing product, But we're a small team.
And the stability of the product and everything is for you is very important.
Absolutely.
Just to conclude, what do you think about the word, no code, and the space, and where it's going, and all the AI buzz, and is it still relevant? Is it?
I've always taken issue with the word no code, and now more than ever, I think. When we were at the No Code Summit, a few of us were chatting. It was quite funny because it was like myself, Mariam from Softer, David from Glide, and a few of the other no code platforms, and we were kind of like, "This is a stupid word." It's obviously code under the hood, but it's more about what it enables, right? And it doesn't really matter the medium. But the problem is there's no better word or no better framework, I suppose. And now, but look, I think it was fine for before, but now it's even more ridiculous because there's no point saying you're a no-code engineer when you use Lovable or Cursor or Claude. You're producing hundreds of lines of code, thousands even. You might not know where they are, but at the end of the day, you're responsible for that code. At least before, there was an engineering team actually running the code that you were running. Now that's you. So I don't know. I think prompt engineer has disappeared. That everyone thought that was going to be huge. I think I also maybe controversially think vibe coding does the whole industry a disservice. I think there is vibe coding. That's obviously, when you're just trying to mess around with a product or a feature on your own, on your whatever. But I think real, production teams like ours and probably all of the Fortune 500 software companies are producing code with AI, and they're certainly not vibe coding. It's very intentional. So,
but that's why you need the word vibe coding. I personally like it because I think it says something. It's not what technical teams are doing.
Perhaps, yes.
They are doing AI coding, agentic engineering. I think Andrei Karpathy said agentic coding. I can remember. There's so many. But it's good because, like vibe coding is what non-technical people do if they don't. And so we know what it is, Sometimes you have to.
But I said this to someone today because I sat down at a workshop here at No Code Week. And the woman beside me said, I'm not an engineer, but now I'm kind of using Cloud Code. And I said, well, truthfully, as a CTO and a CEO, some of the best engineers I've had did not have a degree at all, or they didn't study software engineering. They didn't study anything in university. I hired a guy who was 18 and he was exceptional because he had been programming for 6 years at that point, since he was 12 or 13. Now, what I'm trying to say here is that I have a master's in engineering. And it's not why I'm here. It's not why I have this job. It's not why I got my job at HubSpot. It's because I was genuinely interested in solutions and products, and I built stuff in my spare time, and I learned how to produce those things. So genuinely, my degree did not prepare me for that at all. And I think most university degrees in software engineering, particularly from the better universities, they're incredibly theoretical. What I'm really trying to say here is more people can and should adopt the term software engineer, because that's ultimately what you are doing. I Googled my way into an internship back when it was very hard. Now it's a little bit easier. Don't undersell yourself as a no-coder or a vibe coder. You're a software engineer. You're just learning, and you're at a different level than everybody else.
It's interesting that you say that, because I think it's tough. Like most software engineer maybe wouldn't agree, because it would
I don't think so, because I think probably from the outside, yes. But I think when you're in the inside, we all know that the degrees we may have don't qualify us for the role. It's all about our experience. So you can either do the role or you can't. No more than if you hired someone to be a painter, to paint your walls on your house, for example, you might check that they have a degree in painting, but that's not going to help them paint your walls. You want to see their previous work.
The experience. Of course.
You want to see their previous work. And if their previous work is full of drips and there's paint all over the floor, you'll probably pass.
I agree. And I think that there is the experience, and I think also there's the spirit. Because I like the word engineer.
Yes.
In the way that you mentioned earlier, solving problems. Like you say, you like solving problems. I think this is the important part of it. And it's true. Like anyone who's motivated enough maybe can learn to do that and use the tools to do it. Tools have evolved. Now they are called Claude and this. And before it was just the idea, it's all changing.
It's all changing.
Do you have an idea for a word, something? Because no code is catchy,
It is catchy. I don't know. I think there's all visual development. That was no use.
Visual development is not the only way of doing things now.
Exactly. And I think AI engineer says, I genuinely think everybody, if you're producing software, whether through a platform or not, you are to some degree a software engineer. And I think it's a question of what's your experience level, right? And now, should you all call yourselves software engineers? Honestly, more people do than they are qualified to do so already. I interview people who have software engineering degrees, and they would not, they really just cannot write code, despite having a degree to say that they can or could. So I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I take your point about vibe coding potentially being separate, and for sure I vibe code some stuff. If I just need a script to do something very interesting, that's where I'm for sure vibe coding. I'm never going to check that again. I'm going to discard it after this. But yeah, I don't know. you'll have to come back to me on that one.
Yeah, well, no, but it's hard. I mean, I've been thinking about that. I mean, to be honest, I like the word no code for a long time, but I agree that we're arriving to the end of the.
Definitely.
It doesn't make sense anymore, and also, even for some people, it's almost like old news. Like it's just.
Yeah, I mean, like I used to spend a lot of time on the no code subreddit, and of course, it was all about Airtable and platforms like Noloco. And Bubble, that sort of thing. But now it's all lovable and Claude, and I'm like, do these people not know that there's hundreds of lines of code beneath what they're doing? They obviously don't care, and that's totally fine. But I think it's more that these people upskilled and they progressed, and I mean, like, give them another year, and maybe they'll be opening up the code editor and changing the code. But I honestly think in a year, none of us are going to be doing that anyway. So they probably won't.
Yeah.
But like, I guess everybody's looking for a bit of an identity, and I don't know. I don't have answers.
We'll see. Well, hopefully we'll meet next year
Definitely,
at the No Code Week, or whatever it will be called.
Whatever it's called,
next year.
Yeah.
We'll have to invent something during the year. Thank you so much for sharing all this. It was super interesting, and also to have like the prospect of, like 5 years in the no code space and see where we are now. Thank you. Good
You're
luck
very
for
welcome.
everything.
It's been a lot of fun. Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay.
Bye.